Denis Leary has a plan to save America. In his new book, Why We Don't Suck, and how all of us need to stop being such partisan little bitches, Leary is committed to using the toxic political atmosphere we're dealing with now as a starting point for bipartisan understanding. The actor, comedian, and author joins us.
And doctor.
I forgot about that part.
That's right. It's right on the book.
Joins Salon to share his master plan.
Dr. Denis Leary.
All right.
And that's true, by the way.
No, yeah, the honorary degree from Emerson.
That's right. But what I was going to say, I want to make it clear to people, when they give you an honorary degree because you're famous, I went to Emerson College, so I actually attended the college. But when they give you the honorary doctorate, it's a real doctorate. It's framed. I have it hanging in my office. It's a real, you're actually considered, I'm a doctor of arts and letters.
And you also taught there, right?
I did teach there, yeah. I taught there very briefly, yeah, after I graduated. And that's how I met my wife. She was one of my students. Yes, it was against the law. And guess what? The statute of limitations is over, so there's nothing anybody can do about it.
All right, well, thank you for joining us here on Salon Talks. The book is Why We Don't Suck. It's a follow-up to the 2009 book, Why We Suck.
Yes.
What changed? You flip-flopped.
I guess I did flip-flop, but let me clarify. You've read the book, right? So, I mean, part of this is I'm still pointing out some things that still suck about us. But I overwhelmingly wanted to embrace the idea also of why we don't suck, because this past election was so divisive. Not just the election itself, but since then, people have divided themselves. You know, it's such a partisan atmosphere, and nothing's getting done. And my Democratic friends have lost their sense of humor. You know, they spend half their time just tweeting and arguing with their Republican friends who have lost their sense of humor because they're trying to defend Trump. And I just found the whole thing ridiculous. I mean, I voted for Hillary. I didn't want to vote for Hillary. I thought she was a terrible candidate. You have to hand it to Trump. I mean, whatever he did resonated with enough people to get him elected. I think one thing that he's done is, and by the way, the book is not just about the election. The book is about us. It's anti-Trump, anti-Hillary, anti-all politicians. And I just wanted to be able to discuss racism, sexism, social media, you know, fake news, guns, and everything, and make fun of it, but also remind us that, you know, first of all, everything is solvable. We live in a country where the founding fathers built in a system where every 4 years we get to kick people out of this main job and all the jobs right below it in Washington. So if we don't like shit, we can just change it.
Well, 2 years, actually.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly, 2 years in some cases.
Next year, there's a lot of people you want to get rid of.
So my whole thing is like, I just wanted to make people, I know this sounds corny, but it's like I wanted to make America laugh again. I wanted to make people fucking laugh their ass off while we were talking about this, you know, current atmosphere, and remind us that we actually still live in the fucking greatest place in the world. Now, I also think that Trump did us a favor, because that, you know, essentially what we're dealing with is a reality TV star. Okay, that's how my kids, who are 27, 25 years old, they know Trump as a guy that was basically the host of a reality TV show. That's how they know him. To them, he was a TV billionaire, like a character. So that election, and this is, I'm joking about this, but I'm not joking. There's a chapter called America's Got Leaders, right? But I really do think that instead of spending all this money and spending 2 years, that's how long it took us to get through the last election, almost every presidential election, in those stupid debates where we learn nothing and everybody's just bloviating and arguing about bullshit and making bullshit statements about why they want to get elected. Let's turn it into a real reality show. I think we get Howard Stern, you know, 3 other celebrity judges, Howie Mandel, just like President Idol, or, you know, America's Got Leaders, whatever you want to call it, and get everybody who wants to run, put them in there, throw challenges at them instead of having a debate. Like, send them on. Like, take, you know, Mike Pence wants to go see Hamilton. Let's see if he can get half the cast members to pray away the gay during the course of the show or right afterwards. You know what I mean? Let's give them challenges. 13 episodes, start in August, and then come November 2nd or 4th or whatever the voting date is, we vote by text after the final episode, and it's a popularity contest, and the winner is the winner, you know? We'll save tons of money, not to mention tons of time.
But isn't that how we got there but this is how we got there in the first place.
It really is.
So how do you to get your way out of it by the exact same model?
Well, you have to have celebrities that you might consider worthwhile. Listen, that's one of my arguments with my Democratic friends right now. They're like, you know, constantly arguing about impeaching Trump. Trump's not going to get impeached. And even if you did impeach Trump, it's like Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton's popularity rating went up to 65% after he got impeached. So trying to impeach Trump is just empowering his base anyways. And instead of wasting your energy on that, find somebody who can win the next election. It's not going to be Bernie Sanders. First of all, he's a socialist. Second of all, he's too old. I actually think we should have an age limit. You have to be 35 to run for president. I think we need a cutoff point. I think 60, 65 should be the cutoff point.
So once you're on Medicare, you're done?
You're done. Exactly.
Okay.
I like the way you said that. I didn't even think of that. I should put that in the fucking book. Once you're on Medicare, you can't be the president. You're too old. But yeah, I think if you're going to talk about celebrities, you've got to pick somebody that could beat Trump. Tom Hanks. People love Tom Hanks. It's in the book. I researched I think it's the top 12 most trusted people in America, and 10 of them are actors or famous directors.
Yeah, but
it's crazy. Tom Hanks is the most trusted person in America. Sandra Bullock is number 2. I don't know Tom. I know Sandra, and she's very trustable. And so, she'd make a great president.
You give a great list of women who you think are more qualified to lead than the current political crop. And you actually say, I dare you to find their political leanings because because I didn't mention them for a reason.
Yes.
Yeah. So that being said, do you really want Sandra Bullock and Tom Hanks on the stage going, all right, do you support cutting Social Security?
Well,
and then just like half of the audience, there's no right answer. Half of those guys half the audience just can go, yeah, that's socialist or that baby killer.
But I don't know. Listen, I don't know Tom Hanks, so I don't know if Tom Hanks wants to be president. We know he can make a speech because we've seen him win an Oscar and make like touching, immaculately thought out and written speeches. Sandra did the same thing when she won the Oscar, right? So we know they can make speeches. That's half the battle, right? I think it's just it's about fame. Part of the book I write about fame from my own point of view and how ridiculous it is, right? But people love famous people. I mean, Denzel is like the 3rd guy on the list of most trusted. There's a guy in there who's a scientist, and I don't even know how he made it on the list on the top 12 most trusted people because Steven Spielberg's like number 5. It's crazy how fame has sort of eaten alive the political system. So at this point, all I'm saying is I don't want any more Clintons. We're done with the Clintons. I don't want any more Bushes. We're done with the Bushes. God knows I don't want one of the Trump boys to run after their dad's done. So if we have to deal in fame, and that's how we're going to elect people, Oprah. I want a female president. I think we, as a democracy, we're lagging behind. There's other democracies that we helped create have female leaders, and we've never had one. So I think it's time for that. Oprah would be great because Oprah we'd get free shit like every 3 weeks. She'd just give us cars or a house or household appliances. So that would be fun.
All right. So if you're asked to be the czar of comedy right now, you can't have political comedy. Although we're seeing Jimmy Kimmel's getting ratings, Colbert's getting ratings. They're all punching after Trump, and sometimes it's an easy comedy, right?
I agree.
But there needs to be that one thing that everyone can rally around to joke. We need a comedic punching bag right now, like for American spirits, like the left shark. When things are bad, we all remember, hey, do you remember that left shark when Katy Perry was at the Super Bowl? We all joked about that, and everyone, conservative, Republican, we all got along and had a ton of fun doing it. Like, there will be that moment when we'll all rally around something, right?
I sure hope so. I mean, it's not happening right now. Right now, it's literally Colbert making. Listen, Colbert, has made fun of Trump, and he's kind of making a living at it right now. Trump becomes an easy punching bag, but I warn people when they buy this book, like it's anti-Trump and it's anti-Hillary. It's anti-Republicans and somewhat anti-Democrats as well. It's like, we got to find middle ground just to get something achieved. I talked about it in the book. I remember when I was young. I'm from Massachusetts. Tip O'Neill was the majority leader at that time and the Speaker of the House, and Ronald Reagan and him would denigrate each other sometimes in front of the cameras, but they would if you do the research on it at night, after 6 p.m., they would either sit down and have dinner to work out a plan that made each side happy, or they'd call each other on the phone, and we got things done. John McCain has been talking recently about his friendship with Ted Kennedy and how, even though they were on opposite sides of the aisle, they would sit down and try to figure out a way for each side to get something. And that's just not happening now, which is why we have them there in the first place. So we need a unifying force.
Because they don't want to get along, you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. And it's, Obama never achieved many of the things he wanted to do because he was dealing with, again, a completely partisan atmosphere. So I really, at this point, I just think we need to get some shit done. You know what I mean? Not just in terms of the country, but, we represent the world. We're the biggest country in the world. So maybe Oprah can do it. Maybe it is Tom Hanks. I don't know.
The Rock?
The Rock. I like The Rock. I think he's funny. So Joe Piscopo wants to be the governor of New Jersey. So this fame thing.
Those are some big shoes to fill.
I know, it's crazy.
Sorry,
it's crazy, right?
Joke.
It's crazy.
Okay. You touch on Massachusetts. I want to get to your comedy roots here for a minute. Mm-hmm. You came up to this Boston comedy club atmosphere in the 1980s. Brought us Lenny Clark, brought us Colin Quinn.
Stephen Wright, Paula Poundstone, Bobcat Goldthwait. And the second generation right behind us was Mark Maron, Louis C.K., Laura Keitlinger, Janine Garofalo, David Cross. Some of those people came right out of Emerson College as well. I mean, it's crazy how much talent there was. And I'm not even mentioning Dana Gould. I'm not mentioning some people that went on to just be great showrunners and writers, people that worked on The Simpsons, Brian Kiley, who's a brilliant comedian, who was a football player at BC and a hockey player. I played hockey with him. Who's been one of Conan's right-hand men since the beginning of Conan's career. Conan came out of Harvard. It was insane. There was so much talent for two generations there. Billy Burr. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, as my generation was, me and Bobcat and Stephen Wright. I went to college with Steve at Emerson. The first real big stars of that scene were Lenny Clark, Steve Sweeney, Don Gavin, and a guy named Barry Crimmins. Brilliant comedians, all different, right? And then, so as we were sort of learning from those guys and trying to get better, you can see yourself improving, but you're still sort of looking at Lenny and those guys. They're still the headliners, Don Gavin and those guys. And then you look right behind you. As soon as you get good, right behind you comes Louis C.K., Maron, Laura Keitlinger, Janine Garofalo, David Cross. You're like, hey, this is weird. How much, it's very odd, because when you look back at it, there's a great documentary that was made about it by France Alameda, who was one of the comedians and an ex-roommate of mine up there, called When Stand-Up Stood Out. It was on HBO, I think. And it tells the whole story and goes back and interviews myself and everybody else. It was really unbelievable, man. You had to get good really fast.
Do you think that Boston doesn't get its share of credit over the last 30 years?
Not at all. I mean, I think that documentary really gives it credit, but no, it doesn't. Because when you think about, after I left, and so I got famous in like 92, right? And I've been doing this gig up there called Comics Come Home, which is for the Cam Neely Foundation. We do it every November. Actually, it's November 18th this year at the TD Garden. It's a big gig, the guys, that second generation, and down into the next generation, which is Patrice O'Neill and Dane Cook and Bobby Kelly and those comedians, just astonishing amount of talent. So it's still, that city still has, I don't know if it's in the water or the booze or the weed, but it's remarkable. And not just like really great comedians, but unbelievably original points of view. And it's sort of, I can't explain it. I think it's because a lot of it is the working class. We all kind of came out of the working class up there, and from different neighborhoods. We were all, Lenny Clark and Don Gavin, Steve Sweeney, Barry Crimmins, they all kind of established this sort of, there was politics, character comedy, just pure raging sarcasm. Lenny, to me, was like the white Richard Pryor. I mean, he just could talk about anything. And make it funny. So we had examples in front of us that were pretty extraordinary. And the Boston system was a firebrand. The star of the show in Boston, like if it was the Lenny Clark show, Lenny opened and hosted. So when you were on Lenny's show and you were a young comic, he opens. The place is sold out because of him. He opens with 20 minutes and kills, and then he brings up the first guy. So you got to follow. Like one of the
you got to get your game on.
Yeah.
Big time.
So I think that's part of the reason is that we learned so quickly because you had to, in that system, you had to follow the headliner. The headliner opened the show. Listen, man, I had so much fun. There was so many. It was hard, man. It was hard. But the great thing about it was, like Lenny, I would go up. Every comedian has to bomb. I would go up when I was starting out, and I would bomb. And Lenny would go, "Come back tomorrow night, man. Come back tomorrow night." And I'd come back, and so they encouraged us as well, you know.
All right, let's take a question from our Facebook Live audience. Make sure to put your questions below. Hopefully we'll get around to them. We got a question from Eden. How does the left come together with people who want to ban abortion, same-sex marriage, and send all immigrants home? Where is this middle ground when some people are so far gone?
Tom Hanks. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
How does Tom Hanks here come and give his State of the Union address and saying,
well, listen, the first problem that we have is somebody's got to find middle ground, because you know, right now, one of the reasons nothing is getting done because everybody's off in their own corners in the extremes. So it's one of the reasons I talk about Bernie Sanders. He's never going to get elected. First of all, he's too old, and if we're going to do the Medicare cutoff age, he's not going to qualify, or Joe Biden. Somebody's got to come to the middle a little bit to make stuff happen. Otherwise, how long are we going to be in this cycle? You know what I mean? Well, and when nothing gets done.
We see, taking it from a neutral perspective, each side can point to the other. He's doing it. He's doing it. Yeah,
exactly. Right.
You know, if you give an inch, they'll take a mile, and I think we've seen that politically, though, over a little bit. Right now, there's one party in control of both houses of Congress and the White House,
and
they cannot.
Nothing is getting done because their leader, the president, spends half his time tweeting against the guys that are the leaders of his own party and basically insulting them. Which, you know, there's a section in the book, you might have seen it, where I go back in time and try to imagine what great historical figures, you know, from the past would tweet like if they tweeted like Donald Trump. So I take, like, you know, FDR, Abraham Lincoln, Eleanor Roosevelt, Pat Nixon, Betty Ford, and I just have them, you know, it's called 4 seconds ago. If they tweeted immediately with anger and with revenge in mind, like Donald Trump does, it gives you a picture of the past. Like, again, nothing would get accomplished.
But it's not even that. I mean, there's a party inter-squad, you know, squabbles. How do we repeal Obamacare? Well, that's a giant question mark, you know.
Yeah, here's the thing, though. You can't give people health care. It's one of those things. Like, it's when you give people, you know, a free car, it's hard to get the free car back. So, and they're going to keep, they could spend the next 4 years until, you know, Trump's done just arguing back and forth about this shit. And you're not going to be able to take the health care away, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. It just doesn't work that way. You can't give people free shit and then try to take it back. Ask Oprah. She knows. She gave out a lot of free shit. You don't give somebody a fucking toaster and then show up 2 days later and go, hey, we want the toaster back.
If you're Oprah, you can do that.
Yeah. Well, Gayle King could come and get it. I don't know if Oprah would come, but.
All right. Drew's asking, how do you handle fake news?
Oh, I just, to me, well, it's in the book. I write about fake news in there. To me, listen, there's no question that there's fake news out there, and quite a lot of it is it's both sides. You know what I mean? I just think I find it fucking hilarious, man. The amount of energy that goes onto Twitter every day, like that. I was working yesterday doing press when CNN put out the fake news Apple commercial. Have you seen that?
Yes.
So James Woods was one of the first things I saw, like, going nuts about the CNN. I mean, we're like fucking teenagers, like 14-year-olds, just like trying to shit on each other over, you know, fake news, real news, whatever, you know?
First thing I saw when I saw that, you know, this is not a banana, is like the old Monty Python skit.
Yeah.
You eat the banana,
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
He's now rendered helpless.
I'm actually thinking about it because I like doing the fake tweets in this book so much that just maybe I'll do a fake tweet book next. All fake tweets from famous historical figures, you know?
That'd be fun.
Fake news is great. You can just make up whatever the fuck you want and claim it's real. It's terrific. It's amazing.
Let me get back to something actually real, and it comes into the Boston, to the Massachusetts ethos here. That you've been influenced a lot by Firefighters, Rescue Me,
yes,
even EMS, and one of my favorite shows, Sirens. Once again, I have to plug that show. Is amazing.
That was a great show.
Yes, and I'm still mad at USA for not picking it up, or Netflix for not renewing it.
Well, yeah, but the problem, the reason that it's why I didn't make a Rescue Me movie. Like, when a thing ends, I just feel like it should end, right? So, in Britain and in Europe, sometimes television shows are only made for 2 seasons. Like Fawlty Towers was basically 2 seasons of television. So, to me, like trying to get the gang from Sirens back together again and do it someplace else, I feel like it should just be what it was.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Memorialize it.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, and people binge watch now, so it's people will discover it. It was a great show. I love the cast.
So you don't.
We talked about Kevin Daniels, you and I. I mean, that guy is just, God, that Hank character. We had that in mind, but when we found Kevin Daniels and cast him, he made that character. All of those actors come to life. I mean, each one of those actors when a show is good. It's you bring in the actors, you find them, and you go, oh, okay, these guys are just making it way better than we wrote it.
Yeah.
I could have watched those guys work forever. Yeah.
But there's a lot of respect paid to firefighters. It's.
Yes.
I want to know, really where's the genesis of the respect, the love for firefighters, personally to you.
Well, my cousin Jerry Lucy became a firefighter when I grew up in Worcester, Massachusetts, downtown Maine South. The old original St. Peter's, for anybody out there who's watching. Everybody, myself and all of my cousins, we all went to that school for 12 years. Same nuns, 12 years. They fucking hated me by the end. I mean, I fucking hated them. By 4th grade, I was like, I fucking hate these
way,
nuns.
you?
Yeah. So, but I had a great time. And one of the reasons I think I became funny was because the nuns were so hell-bent on us not making fun of shit and not laughing in class that I just was like, I was always in the back row. I'm like, I'm fucking just going to be like, make fun of this shit. And then by the time George Carlin's album, Class Clown, came out, I was like, dude, I think I could get a job doing this shit. But my cousin Jerry, everybody wanted something different. I thought I was going to be a hockey player. That dream ended really fucking fast. I didn't know what the hell else I was going to be. My cousin Jerry was one of those guys that, very early on in his life, he wanted to become a firefighter. And when I graduated high school, I'm going to estimate, and it sounds like a crazy number, but it's true, about 40 of the guys, and these are small classes, you know what I mean? This is a neighborhood school. About 40 of the guys in my class, or just below me or just above me, became firefighters. So when Jerry joined up, the way the fire department works, almost anywhere, is the crew that you end up working with. They become, it's all a brotherhood, but they become like a family. And so they end up coming to your family events, weddings and stuff like that. When your mom's, porch needs fixing, they come and, so you get to know everybody in the firehouse. At the same time, here in New York, one of my friends became a firefighter. So that was happening for me as well with the FDNY. And my cousin Jerry, who was a great firefighter, he was killed in this very famous fire, the Worcester Cold Storage Warehouse fire in December of '99. At the time, it was the biggest tragedy in the fire service in over 25 years. 6 guys died that night. My cousin Jerry was one of them. One of my best friends from growing up, a classmate of mine at St. Peter's, Tommy Spencer, was killed as well. I started the Leary Firefighters Foundation to help that department and the families. There were 17 kids left behind. And it just kind of grew from there because when 9/11 happened, Terry Quinn, who was a close old friend of mine who was a New York City firefighter, he said we should do something in New York to try to help these families. And so we sort of put together an event in New York. And I guess it was probably, I was thinking that I wanted to make a movie about I wanted to make a movie about my cousin, not on his life. I wanted to make sort of a fictional thing about a firefighter, like a heroic story, but I couldn't do it. I was too close to it. I couldn't figure out, I was going to write it with Peter Tolan, who did The Job with me, who also did Larry Sanders with Gary Shandling. And once The Job was canceled, we started talking about it. And the idea just sort of started, because I used to go to Terry Quinn's firehouse up at the time, uptown. Peter and I went there one night, and Peter was like, listen, this is the story. These guys, it's not a movie, it's a television series. Because, if you know firefighters at all, it's not just about what they do for a living. There's a lot of black humor in what they do. There has to be for them to be able to survive. And I just didn't see it for what it was. And Peter said, we need to do this story because it's not just a story about drama and rescue and heroics and death and mourning. It's also really funny. These guys are really funny in the firehouse. And that's when it clicked. And, you know, I'd have to look back at the numbers, but I'd say about probably 65 to 70% of the stories that we told in Rescue Me, especially the stuff in the firehouse with the guys, are things that I overheard, witnessed, or heard from firefighter friends of mine who came and said, last night at my firehouse, this happened. There's a famous episode where they have a cock measuring contest. And that came while we were shooting Rescue Me. Two of the firefighters that worked as extras came to work, and they were angry because some guy had cheated at a cock measuring contest in their firehouse the night before. And I said, guys, this has to be an episode. So it just became, we had such a blast making that show, man. I just can't tell you how much fun. We had real firefighters as technical advisors, Terry Quinn, a couple other guys. We had a bunch of real firefighters who were working on the show, you know, as extras all the time. And it was just a great experience, man. Plus, I loved the actors. You know, John Scurdy, who's an old friend of mine, he was in The Ref. You know, he goes way back with me. It was just Stephen Pasquale, who played, you know, one of the dumb guys. You know, Garrity. You know, Daniel Sanjata, who played the good-looking guy. I mean, everybody was good. Everybody was funny. Everybody could do drama. I mean, and then we had to do action and stunts. It was great. It was like, I'll never have another job like that where, you know, the nature of that show was you could be doing an incredibly complicated, dangerous, crazy stunt one day, and the next day you're doing a scene about Garrity, you know, accidentally, you know, his cock turned orange because he was using, you know, tanning lotion, and then he jerked off. I mean, but that's a real storyline. So we loved it, man.
All right, last question. You know.
Oh, it's over?
We got one more. We got one more.
All right.
So. Personal question. We have, you know, you say we need to kind of, you know, man up. Not man up. We need to grow a little tougher skin.
Yes.
Basically.
We need to grow some balls. I think I say that in the book.
Well, I mean,
right.
for women, you know,
yeah.
it's different.
But you know, balls, metaphorical balls.
Right.
Right.
All right. So that being said, I want to know what offends you. What is really going to upset you if someone says, if someone jokes, if someone, you know, I mean, look, everyone has a trigger.
Yes.
You, by being a person, have to have a trigger.
Yeah, man, but like, it's like, I was just talking to somebody about this. Like, I start the book out with a warning about sensitive readers, which my wife told me. My wife is a novelist, Ann Leary, and she told me that publishers, since the last time I wrote a book, which is a long time ago, that they have sensitive readers who now read the manuscripts to see if there's politically incorrect or unsafe thoughts and ideas. And I was like, you gotta fucking be kidding me. Because I come from the comedy world where, you know, it's not politically incorrect is where you start. I mean, that's sort of what our job is supposed to be. Our job is supposed to be to go to the line and then step over it, right? So for me, like, you know, it's every time, that's why every time I see a Louis C.K. or a Dave Chappelle special or Stewart, you know, when he did a show or when he very, very infrequently now will do stand-up. You know, it's exciting. There's some risk involved because you don't know what the fuck's going to happen.
You're ducking the question. What offends you?
What offends me, I'm heading to that answer, is that politically correct just for the sake of somebody said it's unsafe or we shouldn't say this. To me, that is really offensive because, listen, there's stuff at any given moment in time where you go, okay, that's not fucking funny, and you should not take that step. But the idea that it's politically correct and these subjects are off limits, that as a comedian, to me is like, just like the nuns. You tell me not to do it, I go, oh, you know what? Let's go over there and find out what the fuck that is about.
It's, I mean,
you know,
to me,
it's like fucking Trump or anybody criticizing the guys who were kneeling during the NFL anthems, right? Now, listen, I think I would not kneel, but I can't say that 100% because I'm not a football player and my teammates aren't, arguing. But certainly those guys have the right to do it. It's one of the fucking reasons we have the flag. There are NFL players who come from military families who were kneeling in protest, right? So, I know this is insane to say, but I think it's really true. Like with comedy, man, comedy has always been the ultimate form of democracy, because if it's fucking funny and you're doing it in front of a live audience, they vote with this fucking sound that comes out of their mouth, right? Because they're basically agreeing with the point of view. And that is the ultimate form of democracy. To try to shut down comedians or comedy subjects is, like George Carlin, Richard Pryor, all the greats, man. Joan Rivers. I mean, it was all about, I'm just going to fucking, yeah, are you going to offend some people sometimes? It's part of the process, Fuck you. You don't like it, don't fucking, It's always people without a sense of humor, by the way, that are criticizing, the comedians.
All right, the book is Why We Don't Suck.
It's written by Willem Dafoe and Kevin Bacon.
And Kellyanne Conway.
And Kellyanne Conway. I know, isn't that crazy?
Come back next time. We can talk about Kellyanne Conway and the Red Sox. And
I joke in the book about it. I think it's actually in the bio, but I want to play Kellyanne in the Trump biopic. There's got to be one eventually when he's out of office, and I think I could win an Emmy if I play Kellyanne.
All right. Thank you for joining us, Dennis. Stay tuned for Salon Talks. We'll be back with more information.